Hello, friends. Hope you're all doing great. Today, I'm here to discuss something on the Hindu editorial, which was published on 11th January 2021. The article is very important for the simple reason. Primarily, it is related to Indian economy, macroeconomic outlook, as well as the monetary policy framework which has been followed by the Reserve Bank of India, that is the Central Bank of India. So this article is again written by Duri Subbarao. He is former Reserve Bank of India governor. Therefore, there shall be an authenticity to this write up, not just because an expert is writing it, but because he has in the past handled such similar situation. So this article is all about planning an exit out of the easy money regime. One must understand that in India and in most of the countries, the monetary policy is set up and decided by the central banks. Respective central banks decide what should be the monetary policy in order to make sure that there is certain liquidity in the market, inflation is under control, there is no sort of deflation, all such aspects, because in economics two factors are very much important. One is fiscal policy, another is monetary policy. Fiscal policy is decided by the government of India. For example, when it presents budget, it also includes its policy, and throughout its approach to the economic aspects, development, growth, etc., it follows upon that fiscal policy. And with respect to monetary policy, that is from minting of currency to taking care of currency's appreciation, devaluation, depreciation, etc., maintaining the forex reserve, be it maintaining the inflation rate, making sure that there is an optimal bank rate, that is the policy rate, which is maintained so that banking system functions very efficiently, which in order to make sure that consumer sentiment is upheld, at the same time market sentiment too is upheld. Too much liquidity in the market always causes inflation, and a very less amount of money in the market leads to deflation, and that will tend to market losing out that window of opportunity, or let's say that capital investment may outflow from India to elsewhere, or let also say that markets will be under crunch to do the business. Hence, this article is very firmly starts with saying the fact that there are two, three aspects we need to know, that planning an exit out of the easy money regime. Easy money regime. One must understand what he is talking about. He is directly pointing at the monetary policy of the Reserve Bank of India. Let me also ask this question to you. Who is the present RBI governor? And from when this MPC, Monetary Policy Committee, came into existence? And what is its role? It is for you to do the homework, and it is better if you comment it in the comment section. So let's coming back to this question, planning an exit out of easy money regime. Why he is stressing on that easy money regime? Two factors. Throughout this article, it frames two things. One, an exit. Another aspect is easy money regime. What is this easy money? What is this dear money? Whenever there is a monetary policy, market sentiments are looked into, and also all the aspects, that is global aspects as well as the internal aspects. Whenever a monetary policy review meeting is held or an announcement is done by the RBI governor, one must have the keenness to listen to them. They begin by saying, okay, this time the monsoon is very good, the crop is very good, there is no adverse effect, therefore we can maintain a balance, very good monetary policy can be maintained, mentioning that inflation target is reachable without breaching the the policy rates, without going high or too low. So this easy money is the term used by the monetary policy framework or framers all over the world by the central bank or whatever you can call it. And easy money is nothing but an expansionary monetary policy. Expansionary, I again mean expansionary is equal to easy, and when you say contractionary, it will become dear money policy. चलो let's see ये क्या है, मतलब expansionary money policy or expansionary monetary policy. What is this? See, basically, when you are reducing the interest rate, that is the policy rate, that will lead to an aggressive reduction, means it will make sure that the money is put into the market while buying back that government securities and other whatever the collateral, whatever you call it, from the banks. The RBI purchases those government securities and other securities by influxing some sort of liquidity to the market. That is called as expansionary monetary policy. In very simple terms, if I have to tell that if a bank rate is, let's say, 2%, hypothetically speaking, let's say it is 2%, and in that case what happens is people will stop, consumers will stop investing in the banks, thinking that inflation is so much so, why should I put my money for the 2% interest rate? Let me take back that money and do something in the market. That is where the sentiments, that is how the sentiment works. And when it is 2%, it is also easy for you to take the loan. If it is 7%, 8%, it will be very difficult for you to go and take the loan. Taking loan is easy, but returning back with that interest rate will become difficult. Hence, so coming back to my point, very firmly speaking, this, whatever we are speaking of, the COVID situation was very harsh. That pandemic had hit almost all over the world, and every country, almost every developed country and advanced country had given some packages. Even in India, it is said that there is a PM package towards the inflection of currency or some sort of liquidity into the market. On one hand, government was doing its fiscal policy front, and on other hand, RBI was very cautious to influx that certain amount of money, certain liquidity into the market, so that where there was a crunch, where the industries had stopped, where there was too much layoff, there was so much unemployment, there was so much of crisis all over. Everybody was having a cash crunch. During that time, RBI had an aggressive easy money policy regime in the recent, MPC, that monetary policy has been shifted to 2 monthly, but that means bi-monthly policies. Please let me know from when did it started, that bi-monthly policy, and also please tell me why RBI is called as banker's bank, why it is called as lender of last resort. These are the things which is very much important as the basic part to understand the role and functions of RBI, and also the importance of RBI in the Indian context. Hence, coming back to my point, so there was a cash crunch all over, there was lockdown, the pandemic was very much severe to India. At that point of time, RBI was the resort, everybody started looking at it, hence it drastically started to reduce, started reducing the interest rates with the intention of influxing liquidity into the market. Now, this problem arises. 2021 is said to be the year of recovery. It is expected from all over different rating agencies, made World Bank, IMF, they are projecting that there will be sharp growth curve. Even Indian financial experts are saying that Indian economy will grow sharply. There was a V curve and exponential V curve, etc. were spoken. Let us not go into it. But it is also said that it will take months. It will take months to recover from the pre-pandemic era, or reaching back to that pre-pandemic era. Hence, it is also a tightrope walk in the coming months for RBI as well as the Indian government. There is also when we say that winter crops, uh, that when rabi crops are very pluming high, and it is also said it has come very wonderful harvest. At the same time, there were also reports saying that untimely rain has hit that rabi, what do you say, produce. We have to see over the period of time how the harvest has been done and how the effects are there. But fact of the matter, coming back to this point, that in this month of December 2020, there was last monetary policy wherein it had continued its, or it had stayed where it was with the easy money regime, and the time has come. That is what D. Subbarao says. The time has come. It has gradually needs to shift towards, he'll not say openly that towards the contractionary or towards what do you say, dear money policy, but he is very clear that this monetary policy regime of keeping the very what do you say, expansionary in the sense at this point of time or in the future also, it may hamper the inflationary targets of RBI. RBI has also one factor apart from monetary, taking care of monetary things of the nation. It also has a very important role to play with respect to containing the inflation. There are two extremes. When there is supply side and demand side pulls, then there are going to be certain thing called as rise in the price level that may lead to what do you say, the inflation. Opposite side will be deflation. And now D. Subbarao very clearly says that even in these months there were higher inflation than the RBI's targets itself. Hence, it is the time to move gradually away from the easy money policy, because this easy money regime is cannot be kept for a longer duration. At the same time, he also brings about this aspect of America's example in the 2013, excuse me, when RBI governor, sorry, not RBI governor, when the federal bank's chief had said that we will be drastically moving away from the tapper thing. There was a tapper tantrum thing. Whole global market as well as the US market got affected. I'm going to tell about that also briefly. But coming back to this article, I must say that he is warning and he is giving a caution to monetary policy makers that, see, make sure when you are moving out of this, however you had maintained easy money policy, but now when you are moving out of this regime, you should be very careful for the simple reason sudden communication, sudden omission, sudden commission may lead to some sort of imbalance or some sort of shock in the market. Again, it might affect drastically, like the way it had affected in 2013 market as well as India's part. Today we are looking at, even though our current account deficit, or it is surplus even though it is not deficit, and also there is a challenges of unemployment. When we are looking to build the nation on the Atmanirbhar lines, looking inward as well as connecting to the world by bringing about a supply side bottlenecks. But this is also a crucial time. Market sentiment shouldn't be hampered. At the same time, consumer interest must also be upheld. That also means that RBI has a tightrope to walk. So let's start going into this article. I have made points very clearly. What is the intention of this article? How he is meaning that, or how he is suggesting, how he is cautioning the government as well as the RBI to be very careful. Make sure that policies will be predictable, transparent, without hampering the sentiments. Non retrospective, of course. RBI monetary policy cannot be non retrospective. But anyhow, having said these things, he is also saying that when you are moving away from the easy money regime, it is also the time we should move. You should be very careful. Chalo, he says that. So he starts by saying there is a constant pressure, which is the COVID had put so much pressure on the economy and on the nation. Therefore, RBI had to move towards the expansionary monetary policy, which means reduce the rate, infuse the liquidity, and even though inflation was going high, it has to be maintained for the simple reason that everything was struck due to this pandemic and lockdown and post lockdown, the fears of spreading of pandemic. Now he says that flooding of the market is fine, but now it is a time to help the distressed sectors also, because during the pandemic and post pandemic, the large industries actually survived, but the small and medium scale industries, they are struck. They also laid off many employees, and as well as they were out of the financial crunches, hence they are still suffering. And when that spring shots growth curve and recovery is on the tip, now RBI must plan from easy money regime towards gradually increasing that interest rate. Probably when they find it very fine, when they find it probably from the next monetary policy, monetary policy committee next announcement, but that is a bi-monthly thing. If you go disruptive, may create chaos in the macroeconomic outlook. That is what he is mentioning. That must be deliberative process. It must be deliberative. Yes, economic policies, that is why need to be transparent, predictive, non-retrospective, sustainable and credible, while catching up with everyone's sentiment and fair competitive interest. That is why economy is always a challenge. That is why it is said that polity is the guardian of economy. Economy is the centerpiece of any empires, any governments. When you keep economy happy, subjects as well as the state will be prosper and they will be happy. Yes. Now, in that case, see, it is bound that it cannot keep for the longer time. That easy money regime cannot be maintained for longer duration. It can be maintained for a short duration, but anyhow, it shouldn't be going beyond the level of expectations, and beyond what do you say, the level when the actual economy will be hit, or actual economy, Indian economy, will start suffering. Hence, the challenges are very clear before the RBI, that managing tensions between and restraining the inflation and supporting the recovery. It is always important that tension will always remain, to be towards inflationary targeting or towards supporting the recovery. Always there used to be a tussle between the government as well as these RBI governors. You may have seen in the past, it is always evident that government always wants that RBI policies to be more of what do you say, uh, supporting the recovery thing, market recovery, or pro-friendly towards the market. At the same time, certain very very traditional orthodox RBI governors like Raghuram Rajan, they were always cautious of the things to target the inflation first and market sentiment the next. It is always a tightrope for a RBI governor to walk. Today is the Shakti Kanta Das, that is the RBI governor, and he let us go into the policy aspect. So needless interest rates, but that shouldn't be a reason for inflation. See, always we want interest rate to be less, so that I can borrow the money, I can invest, the economic activity can be pushed. But too much money in the hands of consumers will lead to cost up, that is inflation. When that happens, it is always a difficult trinity. And I will not say trinity, it's a double tension, double whammy, I will say. And the third factor, which I am not going to say, that is in economy, is always unknown factor, so let us not bring that picture into it. So there is a small distress even today, and we must also understand that, see, after MPC and all, we must I'm coming back to this inflation and revival, so the agenda is always good, but that tension will always remain towards inflation or towards revival, and that tightrope walk will decide the fate of India's economy and India's market and India's banking system, and etc etc. So he also cautions of one thing, that see, core inflation could firm up because of rising input prices and excessive margins among the factors cited by the MPC as one of the causes for high inflation. These things I am not going to explain, but the core inflation, you must read and you must please comment it. What exactly the core inflation means? What are the factors or what are the basket of things which are included in the core inflation and which are not. And exactly speaking, what exactly that excessive margin, in the market how the margin works. Today agriculture and farmers are protesting for certain reasons, and there is also a fact called as margin, through which, because of which, certain farmers are still in poor light, and some middleman always enjoy that margin and also push the rate in the market. This is common factor in everywhere. Recently, Union Minister Nitin Gadkari was speaking of cartelling of certain industries, and how the price or supply is handled by them or taken over by them. This is also very important factor. Chalo, he says, so even though the concerns of recovery are still positive, but it is still fragile. Fragility, very important. Hence, you cannot take it anything for granted. So, what is the plight of savers then? The plight of savers is very, very much thing that too much of liquidity in good time is always a bad thing. Banks are routinely depositing trillions of rupees with the RBI every day. That means evidencing that all money that the central bank unleashed into the system is not doing much anymore. That means when RBI influxed that liquidity, it had thought that okay, market will use it for certain reason. But when it is coming back to the central bank itself, that is when consumers are not using it to the maximum potential, that is considered to be kind of a waste money, or I'll not say waste, that is too harsh, but he uses the word bank bandwagon of dash for cash to inspire the confidence in the economy. When confidence was at very lowest ebb, RBI influxed money with reducing the rates, and when it is recovering, it is a time to squeeze back. Probably that may help in and rectifying and reducing that inflation. Now he brings back this aspect. It is all about commissioning and omissioning, etc., etc., with respect to macroeconomic terms. But he also says be very careful when you are doing macroeconomic speeches, when you are presenting your thoughts before the press or before for the public. Make sure he gives that example of 2013, when the taper tantrums, when quantitative easing is nothing but what do you say, unorthodoxical or non-classical. These are the measures, these open market operation, repo, reverse repo, these are called as traditional approaches. And this quantitative easing is called as non-traditional, or per se, when during the extreme situations. You may have heard of quantitative easing, helicopter money, during these package times, when people were speaking, oh, that money will be influxed, that money will be minted, that money will be supplied to the public so that they can spend heavily. Recently, one expert, I don't know which person, but he was also saying that give Indians some thousands of rupees so that they will start reviving the economic activity. These are all the individual thoughts, but frankly making, that quantitative easing, when post, what do you say, there were global financial stability issues with respect to globally. You know what happened during 2007-8. Since then, the American market was going with the lowest interest rates, or let's say zero interest rates or something like that, or sometimes it went to negative too. But that tapering of that quantitative easing, there was a time in 2013 when US Fed chief said that we will be moving towards quantitative easing. And when he said that, communication went otherwise and caused kind of the panic sell-off showed off that investors used to ease of abundant liquidity were unprepared for punch bowl being snatched away. See, punch bowl is a very, very mean term, but in the economic sense, it is fine. The lesson from the taper tantrums clearly is that RBI will have to manage its communication as carefully as it does the liquidity withdrawal. Because when you communicate, communication is the key for governance, for politicians, even in the public life. even for the district magistrate or a teacher, or let's say for the headmaster of a school, whoever it may be, or head of the family. Communication is very important, even in diplomacy, even in the international relations. If through communication is the key and channel through which many issues can be resolved, and that same communication may lead to boomerang effect, and it may create chaoses. That communication is very careful, and that when carefully articulated, it will have best of its results. So, coming back to that, allows me a siege into a third big challenge for RBI going forward. Yeah, as I said, that US Fed, due to communication, they created a panic, but it was necessary to gradually increase the rate. It was also necessary that recovery had to be seen in the monetary terms too. Otherwise, that quantitative easing would have been never stopped, and US was heavily what do you say taking loans and other investments from other countries too, like China, it is said. But coming back to this question, that the restraint of rupee from appreciating out of line with fundamentals. See, always appreciation and depreciation, that value of currency is very much important. When that is appreciated, it is said it is kind of a good thing, but when it is depreciated, it is in another way, it's a bad thing. Depreciation always helps the exporters, and appreciation always helps the importers. The value $1 is equal to how much of rupee will decide the value of Indian currency and stability, or let's say whether it is appreciating or depreciating with respect to last cycle where it was standing. Hence he says, even though we are good with the current account thing, that is it was less of a bilateral trade and a foreign trade due to pandemic thing, and even though RBI had anticipating the problems, it has also taken some very good amount of US dollar through forex. Hence forex is also safe, but that doesn't mean that as a former governor I vouch for it. What he vouches for it, RBI is confronted with the classic case of the impossible trinity of keeping doors open for capital flows while simultaneously maintaining a stable exchange rate, and third factor, restraining inflation. See, this is all in economy is interconnected. One if you do, another will get activated. That is what he says. See, always if too much liquidity, yeah, inflation may rise. And when you are appreciating the rupee thing out of line with the fundamentals, there is a framework. Let's say they are going with 60 to 70 in between, means that is the fundamental framework for rupee value to be maintained. It is, if it is going beyond that, that also affects adversely. If it is going below that, that will also affect. Always that dreaming is good, but we must also understand the challenges and the globalized trade and tariff, which will determine the process of appreciation of or depreciation. Both the things are done by the market itself. When purposefully done, devalued, then it is purposeful full devaluation. It is also said Chinese do this practice, hence their currency has no global stability and value. Chinese yuan, when they use it to repay the loans, it is said that they devalue so much so that let's say hypothetically speaking, if I make sure that $1 is equal to 200 rupees, that means for me it is easy to pay back, thinking that they will be thinking, okay, I am getting some huge money, but fact of the matter, it's a devalued money. It is not the real money in the sense. And coming back to this question of final fact, that financial stability, the current account surplus that this year together with massive capital flows has meant a surfeit of dollars into the system. As I said earlier, the RBI has absorbed nearly 90 billion this fiscal year to prevent exchange rate appreciation and to maintain the competitiveness of rupee. Competitive, when rupee is competitive, people will start buying it. When they start buying it, when they go for more trade, doing the trade with India, the rupee means India. And when they want to come and invest over here, that rupee has to be competitive. Otherwise, the global investment will see, okay, it is too much risky, or let's say that currency has no value, hence how to invest. Or sometimes the investor thinks, okay, if it is getting too much costly, why should I invest at all? Then the point comes, the RBI's ability to continue to intervene in the forex market will be constrained by its anxiety about how the resultant liquidity might aggravate inflation and the risk to financial stability. Managing the impossible trinity will be a tricky challenge for RBI going forward. It is better to be rough tight, as Keynes said, than be precisely wrong. That should be guiding principle for RBI as it navigates its way out of the crisis driven easy money policy. As again I say, that trinity, understanding of that trinity is always difficult task. Keeping open the doors for capital flows, which is very necessary, we say, as far as that kind of investment is not coming. Governments fear that there is no foreign investment, means there won't be any job creation, there won't be development, there won't be anything sort of like that. Because in past 5 years I have been listening from the budgetary announcements that there is no private investment coming in, and government has to make investments for for capital investment and also the infrastructure development. Hence they are also pegging upon that foreign capital investment, which was also key driving story for Vietnam, for China during 80s, Vietnam during 90s. Say that capital investment and make in India kind of things has helped those nations. If make in India can help India, make in Vietnam, make in China kind of things has helped them to bring about a lot of capital investment. With that overall development, that export led growth, that growth led to a massive rise in the employment and production, and vis-a-vis the rise in the stature of its own growth and development. And that is one thing, capital flows. And then stable exchange rate is always the key thing, otherwise it will always be drastic and disastrous. And third, inflation always affects the common man. Inflation affects every individual, hence it is important to maintain inflation. And this is all the article is about. Again, summing up everything in 3 or 1 or 2 minutes, the planning an exit out of easy money regime. That means he says when there was a crisis, RBI influxed a huge, very, very good amount with expansionary monetary policy. Now it's a time to move back. At the same time, while moving back, keep the things very clearly that you should not hurt the capital investment coming from outside, foreign direct investment per se. You should not hurt the sentiments of market as well as the exchange rate in the foreign currency. Otherwise your local standing in the foreign market may get reduced. Third factor, the core of RBI's aspects which has to keep in mind, because it cannot be populist. The policies of RBI is not expected to be popular or populous, or it is not electoral thing. It is always towards the betterment of India's economy. If in the case of RBI and Central Bank of India's perspective, if I am saying, and it should always keep in mind how this nation flourishes while within the limits and ranks what they are provided with and what they are having with, how to flourish ahead. That should be the key principle. See, these things, this single article, it may sound very much tedious, but if you go deeper into it, it is so simple. And this article, why I have chosen this, there were many articles on 11th of January, but this article, why that fine print is needed? Because the next economic cycle per se, let's say this year's budget, 2021 economic cycle, 2022 economic cycle, that is when, ideally speaking, that is when it is expected, it may be expected that the normalization may come. But looking at the other situations, what might happen, what might not happen, if and buts, things will always differ. Things will always differ with respect to internal aspects and global aspects. Yeah, if the trade war ends between US and China, it's a good thing. If the Jacopa thing, Iran and with the new administration come closer and reduces that nuclear tension, that is also a good thing. We have Chabahar port in the Iran, and with good relation between Iran and US, that sanctions could be removed. Already for Chabahar port we don't have the sanctions, but for deeper Middle East kind of thing, for oil and other reserves, we can have a very deeper connect. We don't know bird flu kind of thing, or these kind of pandemics might repeat again and again. We don't know about what you say, new traces and that replications, etc., etc. I'm not going to speak, but when we say or when we said the things, we are always hopeful. We should always be positive, but at the same time we should always ready for the worst. This is what this whole understanding of economic framework must be. And this article is very clearly mentions being the former governor at the helm. Okay, he also says, so of course the new at the helm are also knowing these things, but this is an opinion kind of a thing, which is educating both the RBI government as well as the citizens who are reading this article. Hence, always important that communication is also one of the keys. While RBI does its job, that communication also matters in bringing about a change, and that change could be positive or negative. It always depends on that communication. 2013 US Fed was the best example when they said of temper tantrums, and when they said that they are gradually tapering that quantitative easing. Coming back to this aspect, I see that a good sign of growth is being picked up, or let's say everywhere that hope and sign of positivity, that growth story is being talked of India's market, and India's economy is seen to be one of the outlier among those stagnant or negative growing world countries all over the world, or countries all over the world. Hence, India's market is seen to be very positive. At the same time, as D. Subbarao also says, as also we also see that big capital or big industrialists and big firms were able to what do you say, face the challenge during pandemic and even otherwise, even though they have laid too much. This is a time for RBI to think of that employment which is lost due to pandemic. That employment, see, India's market or India's economy was growing. It is said it was a jobless growth. Now the challenge of demographic dividend is rising, and when that aspect is rising, new ways to look into it. And at the same time, we also must understand that there are many disruptive technologies which are coming into the play, which might take all those traditional jobs done by 10-15 members can be done by cobotics. That can be taken over by data kind of thing. That can be taken over by, what do you say, emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, mate, disruptive technologies, what and all, you can name it. You can name it. As the technology is evolving, there are new challenges as well as opportunities rising. With everything, there will be a challenge that human nature's or human natured job, human skilled job, what are its futures, is also a challenge of today, and it will be a challenge even after 10, 20, 30, 40, or by the end of the century. We will be talking of these things. The new jobs are emerging while the old job are getting eliminated. That eliminated job with which they had a skill must be replaced with something good, so that they can also be used for the productive activity of the India's economy or India's growth, India's development. Hence, this challenge with respect to RBI is also an understanding and also learning for us. Dhanyavad. Hope it was useful for you, and thank you very much for joining in this debate. Even though it is a small article, but speaks in volumes of the Indian economic challenges and also the challenges faced by the RBI. It can be precursor to the upcoming budget. It is also saying certain things, so that must be kept in mind by the policy makers, so that a fine framework or the fine print, ideally speaking, fine print while looking at the available or rising challenges, that India's economy must be built in a very new way. At the same time, that must be steadfast. Hope it was useful for you. Thank you for joining once again. Dhanyavad. Jai Hind. This is Shreyank S. Ranade. Thank you. Do like, comment, share and subscribe, and also mention what were your thoughts on this detailed and deep discussion. Dhanyavad.